Hey everybody, it's Krantz drinking an espresso in New York City. The eve before I return to Vegas, I'm on a little vacation bit, and I had to come home from my little brother's high school graduation, which will indeed be featured on 2 Months, 2 Million. Anyway, I'm using ScreenFlow, which is a Mac recording program because I don't have my desktop. So we'll be playing on Stars, and bear with me if there's any audio problems or ninjas. We'll try to fix them. Hopefully, I can get a little bit of action, play some heads-up games, and then let me just concentrate on finding a Jew. Let me concentrate on finding some games, and then I'll give you sort of update on where we're at. This, by the way, for those of you, not paying attention, this is 2 Months, 2 Million, the strategy series, the official one, episode 4. This guy knows me. Let's see. Whoa. Yeah, so interesting developments. Again, cannot tell you guys how we are doing in relation to the $2 million goal, but we're about halfway through the season. We're about halfway through the season, and things have been going. We've had some very unique situations occur. I think it's going to be a good TV show. I really can't get into too much, but I've done a lot of crazy things. I've done a lot of crazy things, and you will be seeing them on TV. Find this. Alright, so it looks like this guy's going to two-table me as I drink my espresso. Anyway, really cool thing related to the reality show that's sort of happened last weekend is that we stood in front of a green screen and did the intro to the show, meaning the title sequence. G4 hired an outside company to come in and design what the title sequence is going to look like. Again, I can't talk about it, but the website is going live in the next week, and if you watch G4 at all, there's like a Ninja Warrior marathon they're running, like a ton of commercials for the show. They're like teaser commercials, so they don't have any footage of us yet, but we did do some stuff that they're probably going to be using for the commercial, and you can check that out soon. So I'm going to 4-bet here. I mean, I'm in raise, which is unfortunate, but this is obviously a multi-tabling reg, and ace queen suited is going to be in my value 4-betting range. Obviously calling it off. I don't know. I mean, again, this may tell us nothing if he shows up with a pocket pair or some sort of big hand. It may, prove that. I mean, again, he's ace king, so it tells us nothing, and I reload. Seemingly theme for a lot of my videos, or I get all in with a good hand, and after like 4-betting or 5-bet shoving pre-flop, and I learn nothing about my opponent because the videos are often like too short, or he always has the nuts. Hopefully this doesn't turn into one of those videos. But as you can see, I'm not using a HUD. I'm just going to be paying attention to the frequency with which he re-raises. On this table, I'm just going to again 4-bet him. Last time I saw ace king and I did it with ace queen, so this time, if I'm assuming that he's 3-betting light on various tables, I don't think he's ever going to jam light, so this makes it a good spot to 4-bet bluff. Again, it really does depend on the hand that he actually has in this spot. He may decide to shove it. Ace jack, he may decide to fold it. Probably would shove against me, but you can see that becomes a profitable 4-bet if I can just make that assumption. I think it's a good assumption. This guy is agreed to table me. He knows who I am. He is probably going to be an above average player. And he's re-raising a lot, so I'm going to start min-raising. This is a spot where almost everyone c-bets, so I'm going to just check raise immediately and see what happens. And he just instantly folds. I mean, I'm sure he's sure that that's like a spot where he's going to get messed with, but sometimes it's worth seeing just whether or not he's going to continue to try to take the pot back from me. And often early in a match, I find that people are just willing to like lay down right there. We've got a really aggro 3-betting and 4-betting dynamic going on right now. So, I mean, he insta checks back. I don't necessarily know if I'm going to have fold equity here by betting on the turn, but I will bet the river too if I get called. What was I going to say? Yeah, so I chose to flat this instead of 4-bet. That's what I was talking about. Sorry, instead of 3-bet. This is a spot where I think when people fire the turn, they don't follow through in the river, especially when your opponent knows that you're a thinking player. So you should, by all means, just bet the turn and then follow through on the river again. Just see what your opponent's capable of doing. See if he's going to look you up really light. See what he's checking back, how weak or strong his range is for checking back the flop, and so on and so forth. And you'll be able to get a good idea of whether or not you can a turn bet is good, or a turn and a river bet is good, or just checking the turn might be good, because the times that he checks back the flop, he's always got a hand with showdown value and will always fold the river. Sorry, we'll always call the turn and call the river. And when you don't have any equity in the pot, when you've got like air, you should just give up in those spots. So he's got autofold clicked in some tables, so I'm just gonna probably like min raise every single button and see how he reacts to that. For those of you who read my blog, I wrote a pretty interesting post about living on the set of a television show for the summer. It's like unlike previous summers in which I've usually lived in a house and played a lot of poker. I mean, I'm playing a lot of poker this summer, but I'm also being filmed as part of a reality show, so I'm living my life in a series of episodes. And I found myself talking in the third person last week, in terms of like saying like Jay should go do this, when it's not like I'm being like extremely egotistical because I'm a reality TV show star. It's because I'm thinking of my life in terms of story and episodes and how it would work on TV, and I'm suggesting that I go somewhere because it would be good for the TV show. So that's when you know that you're involved in this like really surreal experience. And I think part of it is because I come from like a creative background. I went to school for writing, so I sort of see how the production companies sort of in this spot. It's weird. He's almost always value betting like a jack or a 9. He probably has a 9 here, or really weird spot. I don't expect people to bluff here. This is what we started referring to in the show as a Janko frequency, and his Janko frequency should be kind of high if he's a good player. And I flop Jin over here, so I'm just gonna bet. But yeah, he should be high if he's a good player. But a very, very good player should be higher than a bad player, and see if you can figure out what Janko frequency is. And if you can figure it out, you'll get a bonus. There's also Jinko frequency, which is the opposite of that situation. Hopefully, it'll come up here. It was invented by Ansky anyway. Here's a spot where he's either raising as bluff or he is raising with a huge hand. So I'm just gonna call and check the turn because he's probably gonna allows him to continue with his bluffs, or this is weird. He just insta check the turn. I'm gonna be calling here in case he has jack, raise the flop with a jack. I don't think he did. If he does bet the river, he's probably bluffing or has a flush or check back a set. I don't really know what he could have if he does bet the river, but there's no value in me betting the river, so I might as well check. When he checks here, I'm not really happy. He raised the king jack, so I would have gotten his money anyway if I shoved the flop, but there's nothing I can do there. That was a better play. Sorry, there is stuff I can do, and I did it. I'm gonna check back here, just because I don't really expect anyone to necessarily give up in that particular spot. But I will take a stab at it on the turn. He just instantly calls. When he checks the flop, he usually, this is way too thin of a value bet on the river. I think that he can be check calling with a pair plus diamond. Well, I wish I had more time to think about this. If he checks the flop and was intending on check calling, he probably, he can have a pair with a diamond very easily. Yeah, there we go. Too thin of a value bet. You need to have, I guess, some serious metagame for that to end up working out. But yeah, so I was saying I come from a more creative background, so I sort of see what the production company is doing in terms of story and trying to, fit various things that are happening in our lives together to make a TV show. And I also see what's going on in our lives, and I also see the big elephant under the table, under the blanket, under the sheets, whatever you want to call it, that we can't talk about, which is on TV, which is the fact that we're being filmed filmed for a reality show, which is obviously the weirdest part of the summer, the stuff that has really affected my life this summer. So it's just an odd experience to start going to sleep and thinking about just like a stylized version of your life, and how how producers are envisioning your character might act and how you actually act, and so on and so forth. And I can get into philosophical or existential ramble right now, but I won't. I'll spare you that because it won't be as good as my other rambles. But I will say that we have gone out to various places in Las Vegas, including Excess, which is at Encore. Encore is the best hotel if you guys are going to Vegas and can spring for a really good weekend and a luxurious time. Go to Encore. I've been to the spa, which is this giant Indian palace, and the food's really good. There's some good restaurants there, and Excess is a club there, and it's just insane, way better than any other. This is a good spot to lead on the left, and I should have led, and that's all right. If he checks back, I'll bet the turn and give up on the river in this spot. This is a check call over here, but this is a really good spot to leave when you totally miss, because it's a spot where your opponent's just going to be checking back pretty much night and day, pretty much all day long. This is a spot on the right where you just want to bet to protect your hand. And I stayed at the Encore also before I got to town, and it was just really, really awesome. What else? Went to the Deuces Cracked home game with Venetian, met a bunch of you guys, played a pot against Dave. Sorry, I don't remember your handle or your last name for that matter, but you sat next to me and I hit quads and you had aces. And truth be told, you were berating yourself for the call. It was a huge pot. It was a three-way pot with tons of white chips, which was pretty annoying. But here's another Janko spot where nothing changes, and I might bet the river to get to fold an 8 or to fold a better ace high. I'm just gonna sort of give up there. You know, I want a big pot, and you couldn't fold aces, but I'm a maniac, and I don't really care about 1-2. So it was a good call. It was a good call. It's really weird when I can't see. Hopefully the sound level is working on this. I mean, I've never used this program before, but it's really, really odd when I can't see my mic bar, so I can't even see the blinking that it's recording. I could just be recording nothing right now and talking to myself. So bear with me if there's some technical issues in this video. Hopefully there aren't, and I promise that I will make it up to you if there are in the next one. Here I'll just flat. I mean, he is 3-betting a decent amount, and I have position. Check call the flop, check on the turn, bet the river. I mean, I think for the most part he has a queen here. It's just really interesting that he decided to bet the river. I mean, he must have a queen. He could have Jack X. It's just sort of an odd spot where I think of hero calling, or even raising the river is an option. It's always good to think about various options to do with the king of spades, but I mean, you have to assume most 5-10 players would assume that I would bet the turn with any spade draw, so they wouldn't really bet fold at queen. The other issue is that it just doesn't make sense. I guess really odd hand here. I'll fold. Strange for him to bet there. Calls here, almost always has a 7, 10, ace high. I'll just keep betting. Could have a low king, could have a deuce, could have pocket sixes. Here's a spot where if I get raised in the river, I'll almost always call. Primarily because, I would think about even shoving too, but primarily because, shoving I can't move him off 2-pair. Let's see what he's raising. He's not raising that big. I'm probably always going to call here just because I bet the turn. He called. He could have 10-8. He could have 8-8. He could also be turning a Jack Queen type hand into a bluff. There are lots of bluffs I can find here in a very thin range of value hands. And there we go. Turning a made hand into a bluff as well. Raising a7. I would not raise a7 there because I just don't expect it to. You're either getting bet called or you have the best hand. So raising a7 is no good there. But that's a spot where when the river comes, where check back the flop, the river comes where you could a decent heads up player could theoretically have improved to 2-pair, but not usually a straight, and their other opponent is aggressive. A lot of I think 5-10, 10-20, just not really good tags, but above average wing tags will definitely make that play there, which is why you should just always be considering whether or not you're bet calling or bet folding when that scenario occurs. Here's a spot, dry board, got check raise. You could have queen X, you could have a set, you could have a flush draw, you could have lots of stuff. So I'm just gonna peel. I turn the nuts. Obviously not the nuts, but if he continues betting, I'm most likely just gonna stick it in here because if he has a flush draw, I doubt he's gonna follow through on the river. If he has a queen, I think he'll probably stack off, and if he has nothing, again, I don't think he'll follow through on the river, so I might as well get money in before the board gets too scary. And this guy, he hasn't shown the propensity, even though we haven't been playing that long, to run maniacal bluffs on dry boards like this, especially against a player of flat you in position. So, I think you're almost more likely to get, especially given the hand where he just raised and I call with king 9 on the left table, you're almost more likely to potentially get him to shove in a draw on the right by repping some sort of. I probably should raise smaller, actually. I raised bigger to try to make it look like I've got a draw and pot committing myself. But I probably should raise smaller, considering that it does the best, because when he's got draws, he might call and he might shove, like whatever. It's sort of like an EV. The difference is very, very small. I mean, obviously you want him to shove, but if he does call, I mean, it's pretty obvious what he has. So from a hand reading standpoint, it's not that big a deal. But and he's also out of position. But also, if he's got pure air, you can sort of get inside his head when he knows you're a good player and he knows that you get into that whole psychological level. You know that I know that you know that board is a good board to check raise, and since good board to check raise, it becomes a good board to float for the player in position. And since it becomes a good board for the player in position to float, then by all means raise, because it becomes a good board to double barrel, and when it becomes a good board to double barrel, it's obviously a good board for me to raise. Hope that made sense. If it didn't, rewind and listen to it again. Ha ha ha. Master Splinter just made it funny. This guy leads out here. This is a great spot to raise the hand like this, because you're either being bet 3-bet by a better draw, or he's bet calling a pair, or he's bet 3-betting like a huge hand. So in this particular spot, when he leads the flop and calls, he can have a jack, he can have a queen. I don't expect him to really. He can also have a flush. I don't expect him to really. I don't expect him to check raise here ever unless he has king 10. But I do expect to have a lot of fold equity over Jack X or Queen X on that turn. Even if I don't, I've got a flush out, so I've got backup on the river. Would I fire the river if I got called? Probably not there, because I might, though. I might, because I could see him calling with Jack 10 and Queen 10. This is a pretty standard spot to check call. This is a spot where if he bets a turn, I'm usually calling also, because for the most part, I think he's got aces. I mean, I don't think a player bets like too many queen X's here. He could bet club draw. He could bet. He bet jack queen, so that's interesting. I would assume that he would check that back, just because a lot of my range is like ace high that's folding the turn, or like a worse queen might call, but also I've got 10x a lot when he has queen X. So in that spot, I'd much rather check back queen jack and try to use it as a bluff catcher when the draw is missing the river, or value bet the river and maybe call a check raise, because that's a good spot for me, thinking player, to take ace high, which would fold to a turn bet and turn into a check raise on the river, because he almost never ever has a 10 when he checks the turn. So those kind of things are just like, I'm obviously thinking about these constantly whenever I'm playing heads up. When I'm playing a few tables. Speaking about playing a few tables, one theme that I've been noticing during the show throughout the summer is that, like, I didn't play tons of poker this year, and a lot of people have really improved, and it's been definitely a challenge to refocus myself for sure. My session results, session by session, have definitely been kind of erratic. Here, I'm not going to bet again. He can definitely have ace X. I'm just sort of giving up on this pot. Session results have definitely been erratic. So it's important to like really, really work hard. And even though you want to get more tables in per hour, for me, it's improved my results by bumping myself down to 2 tables, 3 tables when I play heads up, not mixing different disciplines in games, and it's just smart to be sort of, it's smart to be, I guess, cognizant of that, and learning from Tommy and watching Tommy's videos. Episode 3 is really good. It's about like mindfulness. That in and of itself is just worth the Deuces Cracked subscription. Like, Tommy's advice is just so good about increasing your hourly when you're a pro poker player. He's just so good at making things sort of pop when you really, really resonate when you're trying to be a better professional. Not necessarily strategy wise. You can get better strategy advice elsewhere, obviously. Sorry, Tommy. But as far as being a pro poker player, I don't know the time I was going to jam there, but I guess clicking it back isn't bad either. If he has a king, I'm getting it in. Give him room to bluff. Calling is okay here too, but clicking back is probably the best. He almost always has. Hopefully, he doesn't have king jack. Well, now I win, but he rarely has a set hit there. He either has king jack or king queen there. Almost always, maybe even king 10, king queen. again, that I don't like his play, but that's a play. If he has a value hand there, it's almost always that because most players almost always slow play a set, but he did not. I mean, this is going to be a board where I'm just check raising. I'm never ever going to get floated. He called, so I'm just going to give up here. Not looking great for me. He insta called, so I'm pretty sure that he's got like Jack X, Queen X. He doesn't have the nuts when he insta calls. When he bets the turn, he almost always improved on the turn. He could have Ace 10. He could have King Jack, King Queen. But when somebody insta calls there, they nearly never have the nuts. Back to King Queen. I don't like his play because he should be sort of chin the turn. This is a spot where I can see what his Janko level is, and if he does bet the river, I'm gonna check raise. What his Janko frequency is on the river. The board doesn't change, so he bet 6. He didn't bet it, which leads me to believe that the last time he did bet that non-board changing river, he had a hand. So back to the King 9-3 board when he raised King Queen, I don't like it because unless we have the dynamic where I think he's bluff raising tons of flops, which we do not have yet. I mean, I've seen him have hands every time he's raised a flop and re-raised pots. He's played pretty in line and re-raised pots. There's no reason to raise King Queen there because it's so strong. Might as well call and make your flat in position, make your range look as weak as possible. At least possibly collect a turn bet out of me when I try to move him off a 9 or a pocket pair off a float. The more you defend the 3 bets, especially when you insta call, and the more you call flop bets, the wider your range is. So, if you are defending to lots of 3 bets and you're not raising tons of flops with air, then you should be flatting with other hands too. So, this is like a pretty intriguing spot. I'm just going to call again. And 3 hits on the river. I'm going to have to see what he does. I may fold the river in this particular spot if he bets. I mean, he's hit time. Normally he makes most of his decisions instantly, but he hits time and then bets pretty quickly, and he bets 370. I mean, it's just a really difficult spot. His range is going to be like 4-6 of diamonds. Ace-4 of diamonds is definitely possible. He could also have ace-4 off. Probably not. He'd probably call with that. He could have deuce-deuce, 3-3. I don't think he has king-deuce or king-3. I mean, I guess I'm going to look him up for the sake of, because there are very few combos of hands, and my hand looks weak. Very few combos of hands that beat me. And king-jack I didn't really put into consideration there because I assumed he'd 3-bet it pre-flop because he's 3-betting those kinds of hands, I think. I mean, I've seen him post-flop with like pocket 9s and broadways. If I did put king jack, king queen, king 10 into his range, I think that that's a pretty good value bet. I might check the river if I were him, but it's a pretty good value bet. If I put that into his range, I think I'd probably fold the river. This is actually a decent spot to bet the turn and bet the river. Also, move him off jack, move him off queen 10, king queen, all sorts of hands like that. This is also a spot where I prefer to bet rather than check because when you check a board like this, you're rarely inducing bluffs. When you do bet, you're given a lot of ability to do things like this. And this is a spot where I'm going to bet the turn and bet the river. If he calls. And see, I have just a lot more flexibility, especially with these stacks when I do bet in a spot such as that. It's just like, yeah, sure, 9 says showdown value, but when you check back, it sort of turns your hand face up unless you're playing against a really exploitable player. I'm in a terrible spot if I get 4-bet with these stacks by him. I mean, he hasn't really 4-bet much at all. Make a thin value bet on the river here. Alright, bling blang blow. Purple Euros in the house. I get checked on the flop right here, I'm just going to bet for value because he might call a worse king. He might call an ace. He also might call pocket queen. So I'm going to bet here. That turn improves my hands, but also improves his hands. And like the hands that I beat are probably going to fold. The hands that I don't beat are going to call. So I'm just going to take the free card here. And here, I mean, he's obviously always in line in this spot, raising flops. I can just bet fold with impunity. In the spot if he bets there. I mean, if he checks, I assume that we're either chopping or I win. He might have king jack, I guess. But he could also have queens, I guess, or tens. He's got a set of jacks, so it just goes to show that I play good. Pat myself on the back. I didn't really pat myself on the back. I just took another sip of espresso. I'm gonna lead here. He seems to check back these flops often. Check the turn, board doesn't change, and I will lead the river. Because if he's got ace high, he'll probably fold. And you know, if he has a 5 or 6, he's got an interesting spot, interesting call to make. I mean, he has to figure that most of my air would bet the turn. He's a thinking player, so he doesn't really expect me to make that bluff there, which means my Jinko frequency in that particular spot was spot on. What up? Here's like a real good spot to 4-bet. I mean, I don't know how willing he is to stick in the rest of his money with or 200 big blinds or 175 big blinds effective with like a marginal hand, thinking that this is a good spot for me to 4-bet bluff. But I'm going to test him. He plays pretty in line in these spots so far. Who knows? We don't have like a crazy pre-flop dynamic going on yet. And he just 5-bets here. 5-bets small, 5-bets to a good size. Really can't do much with this hand, so I'm going to give it to him. You definitely always have to be concerned that person might be making a play against you because they're in a video. But yeah, also people are trying to play good. Here's bot again. I'm gonna raise. If I get called on this board, I'm probably giving up. Probably is a queen. Could have ace 4, ace 5. Don't think he's really gonna get much credit. So let's check and see. Maybe I'm gonna beat a flush draw. Ace deuce. So leading ace deuce. I mean, leading ace deuce is really bad there, just because I'm gonna raise you like pretty much always on a board like that, especially if you haven't shown the propensity to get tricky and lead with queen x. So I'm gonna raise, especially with what's essentially 2 overcards if you do have a pair, because you're probably not leading with queen x. And I think I can make that assumption because it's such a good board to check queen x, which obviously supports my raise and also supports why the lead is bad there with ace 2. Gotta find out how long we've been playing for because I don't have a timer on this either. Here's the spot where I'm like inviting him to check raise. And he doesn't. I mean, that's a good spot to just like check raise and see whether or not I'll fold. As you can see, I'm playing pretty in line pre-flop. It would be good if I knew how how aggro he's playing. All right, 20 more minutes. Let's hope I can stack him. A. Let's hope B. I can employ the move of honor, and C, let hope some cool, really tricky spots come up for you guys. For me, I just want to move of honor him constantly, over and over, but I probably won't because, games are getting tougher, money's harder to come by. You know the deal. You know the drill. 4-bet on both tables. Let's jam here. Oh, well, no. Why don't we just 4-bet small? Really, really interesting. How much do you make it? 240. Fold here. Play face up. Give him the opportunity to shove over the top. Here's a spot where I'm nearly always going to be barreling if I do get flatted on the flop, just because his range is so weak. When he flats this flop, I mean, it floats 9x, 6, pocket 10s, pocket 8s. I mean, it's just really hard for him to continue there. And I would not bet value with the river, by the way, if that was a blank, unless it was a 3 or a king. I would not value bet with king, whatever I had there, king 3, I think. There's a spot where I'm probably going to check raise the flop, just because I've been check raising ace high flops before. It's going to invite floats. I do have like a hand that's near the top of my range in this particular scenario. He'll be betting ace x, he'll be betting king x, he'll be calling my check raises. I would continue betting on blanks with that hand rather than checking on that board. If it was like, I don't know, ace deuce 7, then I might check because there are more hands for him to float like that actually don't have showdown value that need to bet the turn. And this is Jinko frequency. Not going to bet there because I'm going to get looked up. Here I might try. If he does bet the flop, I'm going to call and see what he does on the turn. Try to keep my range like ace high. The good thing about queen jack on a board like this is that when you check call and the turn comes an ace against aggro players, they might barrel to try to move you off king x or 10x or 5x. At the same time, you can steal a pot with the river. On the river, you almost always have the best hand when it does get checked to the river. Queen jack high can be good. Your pair outs can be good. You have a lot of cool options and scenarios when you do check call with this hand. It also goes hand in hand with the idea that when you're 3-betting a ton out of the big blind and calling, certain range of hands, when you do check call this flop against good players who are raising tons of buttons, your hand is sort of face up and you're always going to have a weak range. So you're making it just innately possible for them to just keep betting no matter what they have because, you can't call with all of your range. And since your range is weak, I'm just going to bet here. I don't know if he is timed out, but I would bet if he wasn't, so I will bet. If you do have a lot of weak hands, and you need to start either flatting a bunch of your strong hands pre-flop and playing them weakly, or check raising on the flop. Having just a wider range of hands out of position that are in a single raise pot, or you need to check strong hands, a variety of hands, strong hands, weak hands, check call made hands, check call draws, check call king x, check call ace king there, check call aces, especially if your opponent is willing to barrel. And that's something that you should really be thinking about in relation to your overall game plan. And I know a lot of you are probably finding yourself in really awkward spots there when you've got 10x against an aggro player who keeps betting. What do you do? How do you know when to call down? How do you know the right frequency? And it really starts with, calling him down and seeing what the hell he's betting with and realizing that when he bets every time, he's probably is just exploiting you, the fact that you do have a weak range in that spot and that you don't slow play and that you're not balanced. And the other thing is that, you should start thinking about just either playing tighter in those spots, even tighter than you do, or three betting all your hands, or not three betting at all, or three betting less, and just showing up with a balanced range of hands in that spot. And right now, I feel like I'm giving you just the secrets to the meaning of existence and making money via sitting in your apartment in a foreign exotic land and clicking the mouse. So, $29 a month. Tell your friends. We get more subscribers, you get more videos. Boom. Not that you're in danger of not getting videos, but I'll just be a happy man if we have more subscribers, and I'll continue to make cheerful, thoughtful, innovative videos delivered to you on time every week. All right, it looks like there's much going on, but we did actually get some good spots here, so I'm gonna stop recording with ScreenFlow. I really hope this video ends up working out and Rusty can cut it together and we can package the intro on it. And I hope that you guys watch G4 Ninja Warrior, because it is actually a pretty awesome show. If you haven't seen it, look it up. It's about like these 100 ninja warriors that compete in this crazy tournament, which is it's like, for those of you who watch like Guts on Nickelodeon, it's like Guts on steroids. It's just like these people in Japan just mean so much. They like quit their jobs to train on these like ridiculous obstacle courses for this show, this event, and they do it, and it is pretty awesome to watch. So check it out. You'll see some commercials for 2 Months, 2 Million, and we're airing on August 16th, episode 1, the premiere. I know that we're gonna be in Maxim next month. There's like a 2-page spread, and Bluff did a feature, really awesome. Bluff reporter came to our house, and we took him dune buggy racing, and he was sort of embedded with us for a day or two, and that's going to be out next month. And we're going to be on the 2+2 PokerCast soon. We're going to be on Deuce Plays with Bart Hansen on Deuces Cracked. So you're going to start to get some more information on the show, because there isn't that much information out there, and we're doing a lot of really cool, funny stuff that I haven't been allowed to talk about that has to do with the formula of the show. It's not just like your straight up docu-style series about, our life in Vegas. It's got some unique little quirks to it that I definitely helped them sort of install. So anyhow, I'll see you next season on DC. By the way, expect the season announcement sometime this week. I'm going to continue doing this series. I will see you in August on G4, 2 Months, 2 Million. And you guys will finally get to see what Flawless Victory is all about. And I will just add that no matter if I hyped him every day in every post I ever made for the rest of my life, he would still exceed expectations. So, I hope you guys enjoy what is to come. I'll see you guys soon.